Hi, this is Stacia, and I wanted to share a tactics puzzle um, from the Woodpecker Method. And this is an intermediate problem, and it's white to move and win the game. So if you'd like to pause your video, go ahead and do so now. Okay, and I wanted to share this one because there is a move that I missed myself, and I know it to be a common idea. So it's really important to review like these common tactical motifs when you miss them, so you can log them in your memory banks for next time. All right, so the move knight takes e5, sacking the queen on d1. I saw this idea, but after bishop takes d1, I wasn't sure how to continue here. I was trying things like knight takes f7, and if king takes, we have these discoveries. But I wasn't clear on how to at least win the queen back here. I mean, and in fact, we kind of like sacked a knight and a queen. So without a mate, I'm not sure this is going to work. And I just wasn't seeing one here. And for good reason, there isn't one. Black is winning here. So after, start over. After knight takes e5, which is correct, bishop takes d1. White has a stronger move here. And that's the move knight f6 check. So this is the idea that I missed. Looks kind of crazy because it looks like, well, why can't the pawn just take? But here's what I missed. If the pawn does take, now we have bishop takes f7 check, followed by king f8. And guess what? Our dark square bishop enters the game with tremendous force. Checkmate on h6. So, and I just love this pattern. This is something that I really wasn't aware of. So the bishops are working together, so I just like to analyze these sometimes. The knight is supporting the bishop, which is covering the light squares, and the other bishop is covering the dark squares for a nice checkmate. And often when the bishops work together like this, I call it the bishop square of death. Like, just imagine this bishop step back for a second. You would have these four squares covered by the bishops, and I call that the bishop square of death. So that definitely works in this particular problem. So okay, so let's go back because black has other options here. So when we take, and they take the queen, well now we have knight f6 check. So if we cannot take with the pawn, what else can black do? Because that leads to mate. Well, king f8 is an option. Yeah, and here you're going to see all my arrows because there's just a lot of forcing moves to consider here. So you should always look at all checks, first of all, and there's a lot of them, right? Both knights can check quite a bit. I even missed this one. So we have knight takes h7 check. We've got knight d7 check. Either knight can come to d7, checking the king. But the thing is, this knight on e5 is actually controlling the f7 square, which might be important. So that's something to note in a position like this. And well, really you just need to calculate. So there's actually a few good moves here. Well, two good moves. I like the one knight f to d7 check. The thing about this though is the g-pawn is still pinned, I'm pretty sure. So if we check other ways, well, let's one thing at a time, right? Check here. The thing I like about this move is it just seems like the king is in a lot of trouble now. Like, let's say king e8. Well, we're going to take on f7, and that is checkmate. If the king goes the other way, same problem. We take on f7 with checkmate. So seems like a powerful move to me, and this is why I like to maintain control of the f7 square. So this forces queen takes knight. And after knight takes check, and this is where puzzles like this, I think, are more challenging, because even if you navigate these tactics, sometimes it simplifies into a slightly better game for white or for you. And this is one of those cases, right? So king e8, attacking the knight. And now the knight is kind of trapped. So the best move is going to be to grab the bishop on d1. And after king takes d7, I think it's important to, you would have to calculate this far, because we get the f7 pawn. And I think this is white's only means of having an advantage here. I guess we have the two bishops too. But you want to be up a pawn after all these complications. And of course, the rook should attack the bishop. And here, I was wondering what happens after bishop b3. Bishop b3. But the computer says this is equal now after bishop b6. Attacking the pawn. And if we go rook f1, looks like black has this move. I wasn't aware of this. Rook takes f2. So why does that work? So if we take... Oh, the rook is pinned. Look at that. Wow, so I wasn't aware of that. So bishop b3 is actually wrong because of a further tactic. So it's important to play bishop h5 here. So there's no funny business like that. And now what I like is, see, black is basically getting counterplay against the f2 pawn. We always have this now, just blocking that idea. And I also like that we have checks on g4, a check on g4, just annoying the black king. So here, let's say bishop b6 with the idea of playing against this pawn. I think we can just be annoying and check here. This will force the king. I mean, the king could come out here. That looks a little sketchy. So probably the king should drop back to, say, e8, the computer wants. Not sure why. But now I think we're okay, because maybe just rook f1. And we're going to go g3 and king g2, avoiding any issues with the pawn being pinned and attacked. And now white's just up a pawn. So yeah, kind of complicated. And I'm going to go through these lines again. So let's go through that line one more time, because it's fascinating. And I would challenge you to see that far without moving the pieces. So knight takes, bishop takes. We have this awesome move, knight f6 checks. This is the one I missed. And after here, we can play knight f to d7 check. And the king cannot move, or it's going to be checkmate on with bishop takes f7. So the queen is going to take. I thought I did this line already. So the queen's going to take. We'll take. Attack the knight. And this is where we have to grab the bishop because the knight's trapped. They take. We're going to grab our pawn. Important. And now black's trying some counterplay on f2. So we cannot go here. Why? Because after bishop b6 and rook f1, black actually has rook takes f2, rook takes. The rook is now pinned, and they can play rook f8, and black will be slightly better. So we cannot do that. So instead of bishop b3, bishop h5 is the move. And now we have these two moves to defend. And after bishop b6, well, we can actually just go rook f1 here. And I think we're okay. Like, let's say knight in. I want to go g3. Yeah. I want to unpin this. The knight comes in, but maybe just king g2, and we're up a pawn. So maybe this isn't even winning necessarily, but it's certainly better for white. So very interesting puzzle. I wanted to go over one more thing because there's another option, something we should note. Yeah, after this move, we also have knight f d7 check. So let's have a look at this. If my computer will allow me. So after knight f7 check, the thing is, again, the queen sack is forced because the king cannot move to either light square. They're both covered by the knight. And again, this move isn't possible because the king is in check. So not only that, we would have bishop h6 again too. I guess the king would come here, but of course the king's in check. So this does force a similar position. And now after king e8, yeah, this looks awfully familiar, doesn't it? We have to take here, and here it says play e5. I don't necessarily understand that. I would much rather take, and after rook here, we must play bishop h5. So we have those resources I mentioned and avoid that tactic with rook takes f2. So there you go. And I'm sorry, one last thing, because after you look at all of this, then you might realize that bishop takes d1 is not a good move. So does black have any other options here? And the answer is no. Let's see, if they just take the knight, then we're going to win the bishop. That bishop on g4 is hanging. So the beauty of this is that the queen sacrifice is forced, but no matter what, it's bad for black. So yeah, very interesting puzzle with a lot of themes. I hope that you enjoy this and learn something as I did, and have a great day. Bye.